The warm California sun glinted off the turquoise pool at 10,050 Cielo Drive as Sharon Tate laughed, her champagne glass catching the light. It was July 1969, and at just 26 years old, she was the embodiment of Hollywood's golden age. Radiant, talented, and on the brink of superstardom. But behind the glamorous facade, shadows were gathering. Born in Dallas, Texas, Sharon's journey to stardom began as a wide-eyed teenager winning beauty pageants. By 1963, she arrived in Europe, where her delicate features and effortless charm landed her roles in films like Eye of the Devil and Valley of the Dolls. But it was her whirlwind romance with director Roman Polanski that cemented her place in Tinseltown's elite. Their love story was the stuff of tabloid dreams. He, the brilliant but controversial auteur. She, the luminous ingenue with a quiet strength. Their Benedict Canyon home became a sanctuary for Hollywood's young and beautiful, where parties spilled into the early hours, filled with laughter, music, and the promise of endless possibility. Yet, 1969 was a year of contrasts. While Sharon, 8 months pregnant, prepared for motherhood, an unsettling presence lurked at the edges of Hollywood's paradise. Just miles away, in the dusty canyons of Spahn Ranch, Charles Manson preached his apocalyptic vision to a growing flock of lost souls, disillusioned runaways who saw him as a messiah. Manson, a failed musician with a criminal past, had convinced his family that a race war, helter-skelter, was coming, and they would rise from the chaos. Sharon, oblivious to the danger, spent her final weeks in a bubble of optimism. She wrote letters to her family, excitedly discussing baby names and future film projects. Friends later recalled how she'd smile and place a hand on her belly, whispering, "This baby is going to change everything." But on the night of August 8th, as she hosted a quiet evening with friends, hairstylist Jay Sebring, writer Wojciech Frykowski, and coffee heiress Abigail Folger, the darkness outside their idyllic home grew closer. Earlier that day, Manson had sent his disciples to Cielo Drive with chilling instructions. Leave a sign, something witchy. The killers arrived just before midnight, cutting the phone lines with military precision. What happened next would shatter Hollywood's illusion of safety forever. By dawn, the house was a slaughterhouse. The word pig smeared in blood on the front door. And Sharon, her life, her dreams, her unborn child, gone. But why this house? Why her? The answers would unravel a nightmare far bigger than anyone could have imagined. The clock struck 11:30 p.m. at 10,050 Cielo Drive. Inside, the soft glow of lamps illuminated Sharon Tate's living room, where laughter and the clinking of wine glasses filled the air. Jay Sebring, ever the gentleman, teased Wojciech Frykowski about his thick Polish accent, while Abigail Folger lounged on the couch, flipping through a magazine. Outside, the warm summer breeze rustled the trees, but it carried something far more sinister. At Spahn Ranch, 25 miles away, Charles Manson paced like a caged animal, his eyes, dark and unblinking, locked onto his chosen killers, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. "You know what to do," he whispered. "Make it chaos. Make it scream." The four nodded, their faces blank, their minds poisoned by his words. Back at Cielo Drive, the night took a chilling turn. Around midnight, the phone lines went dead, a detail no one noticed until it was too late. Then came the sound of car tires crunching on gravel. A voice called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" It was Stephen Parent, an 18-year-old friend of the property's caretaker, leaving the estate in his Rambler. Tex Watson raised a .22 revolver. 4 shots rang out. Parent slumped over the steering wheel, his life draining onto the seats. Inside, Sharon and her friends froze. "Did you hear that?" Jay asked, his hand instinctively reaching for Sharon's. Before anyone could react, the front door burst open. What followed was pure nightmare. Tex Watson, armed and grinning, forced the group onto the floor. "You're all going to die," he said calmly. Abigail Folger made a break for the backyard. Patricia Krenwinkel chased her down, stabbing her 28 times. Wojciech Frykowski, despite being shot and slashed, fought like a wild animal before collapsing in the grass. Jay Sebring, trying to shield Sharon, was shot in the lung, then hanged from a ceiling beam. Sharon, 8 months pregnant, begged for her unborn child's life. Susan Atkins later recounted her chilling words, "Please, I just want to have my baby." The response? A cold laugh and the plunge of a knife. By sunrise, the house was a slaughterhouse. Blood streaked the walls. The word "pig" was smeared on the front door in Sharon's own blood. And in the silence, one question lingered. Why? Want to uncover the shocking truth behind Manson's motives? Subscribe now and never miss an episode. The next chapter reveals what the killers left behind. The police arrived to a scene so gruesome, veteran officers vomited in the bushes. The media swarmed, turning the tragedy into a circus. And Manson, he watched from the shadows, smiling. His plan was only beginning. The morning sun revealed more than just a crime scene. It exposed a city paralyzed by fear. When LAPD officers first entered 10,050 Cielo Drive on August 9, 1969, veteran Detective Sergeant Jess Buckles froze at the threshold. It looked like a butcher shop, he'd later testify. Blood pooled on the hardwood floors, smeared handprints trailed down the walls, and the metallic stench of death clung to the air. But the most chilling detail: the killers had taken time to clean up. Towels were neatly folded beside the bodies, as if part of some grotesque ritual. For weeks, the investigation floundered. The Tate Polansky home yielded no fingerprints, no murder weapon, no clear motive. Then came the break no one expected, from an entirely different crime scene. On August 10th, just miles away, grocery magnate Leno LaBianca and his wife Rosemary were butchered in their home. Same M.O. Rope ligatures, frenzied stabbings, bloody scrawls, death to pigs on the refrigerator. But this time the killers left a clue. A bloody fingerprint on a lampshade that matched a known criminal, Susan Atkins, already jailed on unrelated charges. When detectives interrogated Atkins, she couldn't resist bragging. "I didn't do all of it," she smirked, describing how she'd tasted Sharon's blood. "We wanted to start helter-skelter." The name sent investigators scrambling, until they traced it to a Beatles song and a failed musician named Charles Manson. The arrest on October 12, 1969, shocked America. Photos showed Manson wild-eyed and shirtless at Spahn Ranch, surrounded by glassy-eyed young women. But the real horror emerged during the 1970 trial: the brainwashing. Family members testified Manson drugged them, used psychological torture, and claimed to be Christ reincarnated the music connection. Prosecutors played Manson's twisted Beatles interpretations to show his helter-skelter race war prophecy. The star witness, Linda Kasabian, who drove the killers but refused to enter the house, provided damning testimony in exchange for immunity Manson's courtroom antics, carving an X into his forehead, lunging at the judge, only cemented his image as the face of evil. Yet the most haunting moment came when prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, held up a photo of Sharon Tate. "This was going to be a mother," he said quietly. The courtroom fell silent. On January 25, 1971, the jury delivered a verdict: death by gas chamber, later commuted to life imprisonment. But as the shackled killers were led away, they sang Manson's song, "Never Learned Not to Love," proof the nightmare wasn't over. Want to understand how this case changed America forever? Subscribe now. The final chapter reveals Sharon's legacy and the dark truth about Hollywood's reckoning. The gas chamber never claimed Charles Manson. By 1972, California abolished the death penalty, commuting his sentence to life imprisonment. Yet, behind bars, his notoriety only grew. Fan mail pouring in, musicians sampling his rants, his face immortalized on t-shirts sold in Venice Beach. Meanwhile, the real victims faded into footnotes, until the world remembered Sharon Tate. Roman Polanski, shattered by grief, fled America after directing Macbeth, 1971, a film drenched in bloodshed and ghosts. He later admitted, "Every frame was my scream." The tragedy birthed a darker Hollywood. Security systems became mandatory. The hippie dream curdled into paranoia, and Manson's name became shorthand for random violence. But the most profound change came from Doris Tate, Sharon's mother. For years, she fought to keep the killers behind bars, attending every parole hearing with photos of Sharon's autopsy. In 1982, she pioneered California's Victims' Bill of Rights, ensuring families could confront murderers in court. "My daughter was reduced to Manson victim number 1, she testified. "I came to take her name back." The killers themselves unraveled in prison. Susan Atkins claimed divine visions before dying of cancer. In 2009, Patricia Krenwinkel, the longest incarcerated female inmate, begged for parole denial. "I don't deserve to walk free." Leslie Van Houten, released in 2023 after 53 years, still whispers Manson's name in her sleep. Yet the house at 10050 Cielo Drive held onto its horrors. After demolition, the new owner found Sharon's gold bracelet buried in the soil, untarnished, as if waiting. Today, true crime pilgrims leave roses at the empty lot. The final twist? Manson died in 2017, but his cult persists. DNA tests later confirmed he fathered at least 2 children with followers. One, a son named Matthew, legally changed his surname and vanished. Some say he works as a mechanic in Oregon. Others claim he's writing a book. Sharon's legacy endures differently. Her sister Deborah founded a shelter for abused women, while vintage clips of her laughing in Valley of the Dolls remind us, before the nightmare, there was light. Want to explore the untold stories of Manson's other victims? Click subscribe. The darkness runs deeper than you know.